Show, where we talk and you listen. On today's episode, we are having our very first counselor come in and be our special guest, so let's let her introduce herself.
Yes, so I'm Ms. Hernandez, and I'm one of the school counselors here at Apex Friendship, and I work with the later half of the 9th grade alphabet.
All right, so what brought you into the counseling field specifically on a school level?
Yeah, so I originally got into school counseling because in college I worked in the admissions office of my university. So I originally got into counseling because I really enjoyed the college planning piece and applying to college, thinking about what you need to get into school and how it all looks from the admissions side. But once I got into grad school and started working at my internship, I loved working with the students on everything else but college, really. Like now, that's kind of why I enjoy working with 9th graders so much, because the college admissions process is no longer my favorite part. I love working with students on how they're doing in their classes, any issues they might be having with friends, just talking about what's going on in their lives and school and things like that. So I really enjoy working with the high school students.
Oh, and speaking of favorite part, what is, like, if you could choose like one favorite part of your job, what would it be?
I love working with students on 4-year plans. So coming in with 9th graders, they're thinking about what they want to do for the rest of high school, maybe what they want to do after high school. I love sitting down with them and planning out, okay, what kind of classes do you want to take for the next 4 years? What kind of English class, what kind of electives? What electives might be similar to a future job or a future major in college might be interested in, and kind of mapping out a roadmap for their 4 years in high school is one of my favorite parts. And then, of course, listening to students talk about all the gossip and drama in their life, that's always interesting.
Now, thinking back to your time in high school, what was it like compared to what you see now?
Yeah, so it's very interesting now because when I was in high school, that's when Snapchat and Instagram were both invented and both kind of came out. So it's really funny to see the way my friends and I use Snapchat, because Snapchat stories I don't think came out until like my senior year, and Snapchat groups didn't come out until I was in college, I don't think. So it's really funny to see how you all interact with the apps that started when I was in school and how you all use them now. It's very funny to me, but we were all the same. We were all on Facebook, on Instagram, Snapchat, and so it is kind of similar with the social media sense for sure.
Yeah, you can't escape it now.
No.
It's everywhere. It's everywhere. All right, so I have some questions that were sent in by students, and I was wondering if you could answer a few of them. Your counseling expertise.
Okay.
I don't think my teacher likes me.
Oh my gosh, that's so hard. I feel like I hear that all the time. And sometimes, for me, I feel like it might be in students' heads, right? Like, I feel like nowadays we overthink a lot of things. We get in our heads. We're like, okay, this person maybe doesn't give me like the nice attention that I would give them, so I feel like they don't like me. And maybe you feel that way with your teachers too. Now, maybe very rarely there is a teacher that doesn't like you. I don't think that's true. I think most teachers love their students, love being teachers and that sort of thing. But just think about kind of how you treat your teacher back. Like, are you respectful? Do you get all your work done? Are you on your phone in class? Like, do you kind of do what you're supposed to do? Do you do your homework, your projects, that kind of thing? So if you're kind of doing everything that you feel like you're supposed to be doing and you still feel like your teacher isn't your number one fan, then maybe we should have a conversation with them. You could talk about it with your counselor, talk about it with your parents, and kind of see how you want to navigate the rest of your school year with them. Because think about down in the future, you might have a boss you don't like, a coworker you don't like. So high school is kind of a place to practice getting along with people that you don't like. So we can always help you work through those feelings and kind of see if there's a way we can fix that relationship, or you just kind of go to your classes, do what you're supposed to do, and know that you're only in class for a few months, and then we get new teachers.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Yeah.
The next one is, how can I ask my teacher for help? I'm afraid to look dumb in front of everyone.
Girl, that was literally me. I never wanted to ask questions.
Same.
Like, I never wanted to talk to my teachers one-on-one, which is so funny because now I'm like, you need to go talk to your teacher, you know? So I feel like if you don't want to ask a question in front of the rest of your class, you can definitely try to meet up with your teacher at the start of class before everyone gets there, or at the end of class before everybody leaves. Like, especially if you have a class like kind of around lunchtime or the end of the day, trying to talk to your teacher as everyone's leaving the room so nobody maybe hears you ask that question. If you're still too shy, too intimidated to do that, feel free to email them, okay? Like, your teachers are always going to be checking their email, and if you have a question that you're just kind of shy to ask in front of the group, maybe email them, be like, hey, like, I didn't really understand this concept, like, can you maybe just answer this quick question for me over email? That way, if you're too shy to talk in person, you can still get that help that you need.
Yeah, and no matter what, it shows that initiative, even if it's an email or in person. It shows that you care.
It does show that you care, that you're interested in their class, and, you know, that just builds a good relationship.
Yeah. All right, question number 3. I hate lunch because none of my friends have lunch with me.
Yes, that is really hard at this school because it's so big and there's just different lunches. It's very frustrating. What's nice about this school is that it's so big, so if you don't have friends in your lunch, it is a good opportunity to try to make new friends. If you see somebody who's in one of your classes, or maybe you went to elementary school with them and you guys played together in elementary school, maybe you can try to restart that friendship now in high school. Or you really can just use lunch as your me time. Like if you feel like you don't have friends, you don't really want to make new relationships, just use it as your me time. Find a quiet place in the building, either down the hallway by the Performing Arts Center, or maybe up in the library, or if you have a teacher that you want to hang out in their classroom, and just use that time to eat, read a book, watch TikToks, and just like relax and refresh in the middle of school day. Because it is hard to feel like you don't have people you want to hang out with at lunch, but maybe just use that time to refresh yourself before you go back to classes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and in college sometimes, isn't it like you don't have to be with people, like sometimes you could be working on something or studying on something. So is it like kind of, this is like a good like practice time for you to like get used to sometimes like eating by yourself or working on yourself during that time?
That's a really good point. Yes, in college, a lot of times it is completely normal to see people eat in the dining halls by themselves. Like I would do it all the time. I know friends would do it. Sometimes you might prefer to even do that in college because you're so overstimulated and busy that it is nice to eat in the dining hall by yourself, or go to the library by yourself. That's also very normal to see people in a study room or at like a big table or a small table just on their own. So yeah, that is a good way. Like having lunch on your own now in high school can help you practice and prepare for being more independent and on your own in college for sure.
Yeah. All right, question number 4. How many AP classes should I take to get into a good college?
Yes, I feel like I get asked this all the time. There is no magic number of AP classes to take to get into college, and I feel like everybody needs to hear that. There is no number of what you have to take. My advice is always to only take AP classes that you're interested in. If you are not a math person, you don't need to stress yourself in AP math classes, okay? Like same thing with history. If that's not your jam, if you're going to be miserable in those classes, you just don't need to take those classes, because at the end of the day, if you take an honors class and do really well, that's going to look better than taking an AP class that you're going to be miserable in and not do so well. So I always want students to take AP classes that they are interested in, that they feel like they are confident that they'll do well, because if you're interested in the subject, you'll want to do better in it and you'll want to work harder. Like you'll find the homework easier, like you'll find it more interesting, you want to do it. So don't take AP classes because you feel like colleges want to see that. Sure, they want to see you challenging yourself, so I wouldn't necessarily take all academic classes if you're trying to go to a more competitive university, but you don't need to take all AP classes just to stress yourself out for college. You should take them because you're interested and you want to prepare for college, not because you're trying to look good for college, because there's so many other things you're doing in your day-to-day life that will make you look more attractive to universities. So please don't stress about AP classes.
And how would you approach that pressure around AP classes? Because I know at one point I was definitely in the zone where I thought I needed so many AP classes for this, and then it just became too much. So how would you sort of not steer kids away from that, but just to steer away from like you need all these classes in order to be successful?
Yeah, I feel like that's something that students hear all the time, either from social media or from their families or other like outside college counselors, if people work with that, is that pressure to take AP classes. And I feel like you will never hear that pressure from me. That is not coming from me. But you just need to be true to yourself and be true to what you're interested in. If you are very academically driven and you feel like the AP classes are easy and you can take a lot of them and it's fine, definitely that sounds like your jam and go for it. But if you're feeling pressure to take AP classes, just try to take 1 or 2 a semester. Don't try to overfill your whole school year with AP classes, because again, you're doing very interesting things outside of school, whether that's a sport, a club, volunteering, working a job, and that will all look attractive on top of what you're doing academically. And you want to come off as academically strong, not necessarily just like taking AP classes for the sake of it.
Yeah. All right, and our final question is, this is me right now.
Okay.
How do I not give in to senioritis?
That was literally me. I feel that it is really hard, and now there's junioritis and sophomoritis and freshmanitis, and everybody feels the itis. So you just have to find that inner motivation deep somewhere. Whether it's I'm a senior, so I want to be exempt from my finals, or I'm an athlete and I need to pass a certain number of classes to play my sport, or I'm thinking about my future and I need to do all my classes for what I want to do later. You just have to find that somewhere deep inside, inner motivation. Mm-hmm. And I think what can kind of help sometimes is putting yourself on a schedule. So when you get home from school, set an alarm, be like, you know what, I've had this long day at school. Before I start my second shift of doing homework, I'm just going to give myself an hour to do whatever, to be a vegetable, watch TV, read a book, go for a walk. And then I'm going to start doing work at 4. And I'm going to force myself to work from 4 o'clock to whenever I eat dinner. And then after dinner, I'm going to do the same little break. And then maybe at like 8 o'clock, I'll work for another hour, hour and a half and try to get it done. Because I think trying to keep yourself on a more structured schedule, this is when I go to school, this is when I come home and have a break, this is when I'm going to do my homework, versus just nebulous, okay, I'm going to go home and do my homework at some point. I think it could be a little bit helpful to have a schedule that you're trying to keep with.
Yeah, I love all that advice, and I hope everyone else enjoys it as well. I'm definitely going to use that last one a lot, because the senioritis is real right now.
It's so real. Just
It
set
really
an alarm.
is.
Set an alarm.
Yep.
Get yourself a sweet treat. Like, you deserve a treat after, that kind of thing.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for coming on this episode.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
The best piece of advice that I've ever received is grades don't define you.
One piece of advice that has changed my life is from my mom, which is comparison is the thief of joy.
The best piece of advice I've ever received is if they wanted to, they would.
The best piece of advice I got was networking. You never know who you meet will be the person who could help you get your dream job. Always talk, always make those connections. Everything we learn and everything we do, we want to pretend is all we can do, but there is definitely an element of who do you know. Make those connections. You never know who might help you in the future.
The best piece of advice I've ever received is it only falls into place when you're falling to pieces.
So the best piece of advice that I was ever given is probably that we're all going to fail, and when you fail, you need to make sure you make the best of it. Learn from it. If you fail and you don't learn from it, then you're just kind of wasting that opportunity. So anytime you mess up and anytime you don't do well on something, make it a learning opportunity and get better from it. That's the best advice I was ever given.
All right, everyone, that has been it for the Sophia Show for this week. Good luck on all your finals if you are taking them. And once again, thank you very much. Good night.